Before there was heaven and earth, there was darkness. In the midst of this darkness was a swirling mass in the shape of an enormous egg containing all things. Slowly, over the course of many years, the lighter and purer part drew itself away from the heavier and denser part. The heavy material settled to form the earth. This was yin. The lighter part rose to form the heavens. This was yang. Yin and yo were opposites, but one could not exist without the other. Yin is the feminine and yo is the masculine, and all things in the world have the properties of one of these two forces. From this separation, the first beings appeared. There were Izanagi, male who invites, and Izanami, female who invites. Izanagi and Izanami found themselves on the floating bridge of heaven and peered down into the darkness below. All they heard was the sound of rushing water. "Is there no land beneath us?" they asked each other. Izanagi thrust a jewel-tipped spear into the waters. As he drew it up again, the drips formed the island Onogorojima, which means spontaneously created island. The two gods descended to this island to live. Izanagi and Izanami decided to become husband and wife and build the land together. They agreed that each should walk in the opposite direction around the world axle, and when they met each other again, they would be married. So they set off to the south and north, and walked for days and weeks and months. Finally, they met each other in the middle. Izanami was the first to speak. "What a lovely man I have met," she exclaimed. But this distressed Izanagi, who felt that it should have been him, the man, to speak first. He declared this unlucky, and determined that they would do this again. Thus, Izanagi and Izanami turned around and walked in opposite directions for days and weeks and months, to meet again on the other side of the world axle. When they met again, it was Izanagi who spoke first. "What a beautiful maiden I have met." Izanami explained that, as the yin force, there was a part of her body which was empty. Izanagi replied that, as the yo force, there was a part of his body which was too much. Therefore they completed each other and became one as husband and wife. Their first child was the island of Ahaji. They produced 6 more islands and declared it the great 8-island country, Japan. Izanami gave birth to the sun goddess, who was so radiant that they sent her to rule in heaven and called her Ohohiro Me no Muchi. Their next child was to be her consort, the moon. He was called Tsukiyumi no Mikoto, and was sent to accompany the sun and rule in heaven at her side. Izanagi and Izanami produced many more children who became gods or elements. They were very happy together for many years. Izanami's last child was the god of fire. She was burned to death during his birth and was whisked away to Yomi, the underworld. In despair, Izanagi left all of their children and grew old and lonely on the far island of Tsukuji.
Raven made the world and the waters with beats of his wings. He had the powers of both a man and bird, and could change from one to the other simply by pulling his beak over his head as one lifts up a mask. His earth was dark and silent. He had created water and mountains, and had filled the land with growing pea-pod plants. After 5 days, one of the pea-pods burst open. Out popped a fully grown man, the first to walk on Raven's new earth. At first, the man was dizzy and confused. He drank from a pool of water at his feet, which made him feel a little better. Raven had been soaring above his earth when he caught sight of the movement below. For a long time, Raven and the man stared at each other without saying a word. Finally, Raven spoke. "Who are you, and where did you come from?" "I was born from that pea-pod," replied the man, pointing to the plant. Raven was astonished. He had made the pea plant himself, without any idea that something like this would happen. However, he was pleased that his earth would now have inhabitants. "Have you eaten?" asked Raven. "I've had a drink of water," replied the man. "Wait here for me," said Raven, who lowered his beak and took the form of a bird. With a flurry of dark feathers he flew off into the night sky. The man waited for Raven for 4 days. Raven returned carrying 2 raspberries and 2 heathberries. "These are for you. They shall grow all over the earth to feed you." Man devoured the berries in one gulp. Raven realized that berries alone wouldn't be enough to feed his hungry creation. Raven then began working clay to form 2 fat mountain sheep. When he waved his black wings over them, the sheep sprang into life and bounded into the hills. He made more and more sheep. Man looked at them so hungrily that Raven carefully placed them far up in the mountains so that man wouldn't eat all of them at once. Raven went on making fish, birds, and other animals, and waved his wings over each one to bring it to life. Each one he put someplace out of man's reach so that he wouldn't kill them all, the fish in the rivers and the birds in the air. Already, Raven could see other men growing in pea pods, and they were soon going to emerge hungry too. Raven created a huge bear from the same clay to make sure man had something to fear. After a few days, Raven noticed that man was lonely. Raven went off to a quiet corner in the earth where man couldn't see what he was doing. He started building a figure out of clay. It looked like man, but was smaller and softer. Raven brushed his wings over the new figure, and the lovely being sat up and looked at man. "This is woman, your helper and companion," said Raven. Man was very pleased. Together they filled the earth with their children, and before long Raven's earth filled with the sound of many voices and overflowed with many forms of life.
Pachacamac, the sun, rose slowly from Lake Titicaca. Pachacamac was so bright that nothing else could be seen in the sky but him. But the night sky was empty, so he made the stars, the planets, and the moon. The beautiful moon, Pachamama, became his wife, and together they ruled the heavens and the earth. Pachacamac fashioned the first humans from the stone of an enormous mountain of rock. The first humans were pitiful creatures. They knew nothing of the world, nor how to survive in it. The sun and the moon bore a son and a daughter. Out of pity, they sent their children to the earth to help them. The son of Pachacamac taught men how to plow and plant the fields, and how to build houses. The daughter of the moon approached the women and taught them the art of weaving and how to prepare food. Teach the humans to be kind and fair. I will provide light and warmth every day without fail, but make sure they never forget their creators. Pachacamac's son became the first Inca. He and his sister wife ruled the first humans. After a while, the Inca and his wife took a long journey to find the perfect place for his people to settle. At every stop, they stuck one of their father's golden rods in the earth. Each golden rod would be a symbol for his people to build a city. When they reached the valley of Huanacari, the golden rod sank into the ground and disappeared. Inca decided that here should be the site of the first temple of the sun, and that here is where he and his people would settle. Inca and his wife set off to gather his people. He went north and his wife wandered south. The children of the sun were beautiful and spoke convincingly about Pachacamac and his principles of law. When they met people in small villages, The people were so moved that they left their homes and followed the Inca and his wife to the valley of Huanacari. Soon they had followers from the entire region. The followers of Inca's wife settled with her followers in the south, and her city was Hurin Cusco, southern city. Inca and his followers settled in the northern part of the valley and named their town Hanan Cusco, city of the north. From then on, all Inca cities were divided into northern and how to survive in it. They met people in life to the valley of settled with her followers in the south, and her city was southern halves, representing the male and female forces.